Forget diplomacy. Donald Trump didn't just want to buy Greenland. He threatened a scorched earth trade war to seize it by force. This wasn't a real estate deal gone wrong. It was the moment the post-war world order officially fractured under the weight of Greenland or war. If you think the Arctic is just ice, you're missing the trillion-dollar geopolitical earthquake that almost ended the NATO alliance in a single weekend. In August 2019, the White House pivoted from subtle interest to an ultimatum that shocked Copenhagen and left European leaders paralyzed with fear. Trump viewed Greenland not as a nation, but as an unsinkable aircraft carrier sitting atop the world's most valuable untapped rare earth mineral deposits. When Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen called the idea absurd, the response from Washington wasn't a diplomatic rebuttal, it was a declaration of economic hostility. Trump canceled his state visit, but behind closed doors, the talk shifted toward a 25% across-the-board tariff on all European Union automotive exports. This was the Madman Theory applied to geography. Use the threat of global financial collapse to force the sale of a sovereign territory. The Thule Air Base already gave the U.S. a footprint, but full sovereignty would mean total control over the future of Arctic shipping lanes. As the ice melts, the northern sea route becomes the new Suez Canal, and the U.S. realized it was losing the race to Russia. Moscow had already activated over 50 Soviet-era military outposts in the high north, effectively turning the Arctic into a Russian-controlled lake. China, declaring itself a near-Arctic state, began pouring billions into Greenland's infrastructure, offering loans that looked suspiciously like debt-trap diplomacy. To the White House, the choice was binary. Either the U.S. buys Greenland, or it watches the Arctic become a Sino-Russian fortress. But the strategy of maximum pressure backfired, igniting a nationalist firestorm in Denmark and a sudden, desperate surge in European defense autonomy. The crisis reached a breaking point when the U.S. Navy began simulating freedom of navigation drills in waters Denmark claimed as its own. Underneath the ice, the stakes aren't just territorial, they are technological, specifically regarding the 17 rare earth elements essential for modern warfare. China currently controls over 80% of the global supply chain, a monopoly that gives Beijing a kill switch over Western defense industries. Kvanefjeld, in southern Greenland, holds one of the world's largest deposits of neodymium and praseodymium, the lungs of the green energy revolution. For the Trump administration, securing these mines wasn't a luxury, it was a matter of national survival in the upcoming Cold War too. But the Danish government saw it differently, a violation of the Arctic Council's fragile peace and a threat to Greenland's burgeoning path to independence. Nuuk, the capital of Greenland, found itself caught in a pincer movement between American coercion and Chinese belt and road temptation. As Washington threatened to withdraw its military protection from Denmark, the European Union realized its reliance on the U.S. security umbrella was a liability. The Greenland affair accelerated the push for strategic autonomy, a movement to make Europe a third global superpower independent of DC inside the Pentagon. Planners were already drafting Project Iceworm 2.0, a secret strategy to expand missile silos under the shifting permafrost. This isn't just theory. The melting ice is exposing decommissioned Cold War nuclear waste, creating a literal toxic legacy that Denmark can't afford to clean. Trump's offer to buy the island was essentially an attempt to acquire the liability and the treasure before the environmental disaster peaked. The diplomatic snub led to an unprecedented freeze. For the first time since 1945, a U.S. president treated a NATO ally as a hostile trade competitor. Economists warned that if the U.S. triggered the car tariff option, the German industrial machine, and by extension the Eurozone, would face total collapse. The message was clear. Greenland was the price for continued European economic stability and American military friendship. Yet, as the standoff intensified, a new player emerged from the shadows of the Kremlin, ready to exploit the chaos. While the West bickered over real estate, Russia was busy building the world's most advanced nuclear-powered icebreaker fleet to dominate the new trade routes. If the U.S. couldn't buy Greenland, the alternative was a permanent military escalation that turned the Arctic into the most militarized zone on Earth. Greenland's local government eventually banned the Kvanefjeld mining project, dealing a massive blow to both American strategic plans and Chinese investment. This move proved that the absurd idea of Greenlandic sovereignty was more than just talk. It was a geopolitical barrier even a superpower couldn't break. But the damage was done. The trust between Washington and its European allies had suffered a systemic failure that may never fully recover. Today, the Arctic Council is effectively dead, paralyzed by the same tensions that began with a tweet about a real estate transaction. We are now entering an era where geography is no longer fixed, and sovereign borders are being challenged by the hunger for technological minerals. Greenland is currently the test case for a new type of cold peace, where the environment is the battlefield and resources are the ammunition. If the ice continues to disappear at current rates, the Northern Sea Route will shave 40% off the travel time between Asia and Europe. Whoever controls the ports along that route will control the 21st century global economy, making Greenland the ultimate prize once again. The US has since opened a consulate in Nuuk, attempting a charm offensive to replace the aggressive tactics of the previous administration. However, the threat of economic coercion remains a core part of the American toolkit, waiting to be unleashed if the China threat grows. For Denmark, the lesson was clear. In a world of giants, even a kingdom's territory is only as secure as its ability to say no and mean it. The Greenland or war scenario wasn't a fluke. It was a preview of a future where superpowers stop asking for permission and start demanding compliance. As the race for the North Pole heats up, we have to ask, is the world ready for a conflict where the map itself is the weapon?